Yes. Mondstadt. The region we always say that Hoyoverse have completely forgotten about and does not deign to care about it any longer. And really this used to be such a meme, but the longer we are getting into the midst of the Natlan patches, the more I really can't treat this as a joke anymore. So let me take you all on a short little journey to remind you all just how forgotten Mondstadt had really become as a region in Genshin, and why maybe we should pressure the folks at Hoyoverse to go back and make some better and actually fresh Mondstadt content for once, instead of just chucking Klee and Fischl to a summer events epilogue where no Mondstadt character actually had anything to do with the event. Make them do their goofy, I am a destructive child and I am a delusional Chinibio shit and call it a day. Look, those niches were funny for the first couple of times, I will admit that, but it gets real tiring to just encounter that thing over and over again when that's all we're getting from a region that really has so many other interesting characters and events to look at. Without further ado, the name's Leafy and welcome back to a short version of Let's Talk Slow About Games, Genshin Edition. Okay, let's get right into it. Mondstadt Forgotten Trivia number 1. Everything related to character releases. A small portion of you might have already known this, but I think a lot of you probably forgot about this fact. But the last time a 5-star Mondstadt character was released had been Eula, all the way back in version 1.5 on the 18th of May 2021. While the last character to have been released from Mondstadt is Mika, in version 3.5 on March 21st, 2023, whilst also being the last Mondstadt playable character to be introduced to us, the character, which was in version 3.1. Since then, Mondstadt have not had any new characters be introduced to us, or even outright teased to be playable in any way, shape, or form. For a depressing contrast compared to the other older regions, the last time Liyue, the nation that was also released at launch, the same version as Mondstadt, had a character release, was back in version 4.4 on January 31st, 2024, the start of this year with the release of Xuanlian and Gaming. Inazuma, on the other hand, had a character release in 4.5 with the release of Chiori, while Sumeru had a character release in 4.7 with the release of Sethos. So, especially in the 5-star department, Mondstadt has been insanely forgotten when it comes to character releases. It took Fontaine, the second latest region to be released in Genshin, just about under a year to have more 5-star characters than Mondstadt. And that is with 3 of Mondstadt's 5-star characters being starter 1.0 5-stars and are on the permanent banner. Honestly, it just gets more depressing the more you look into it. Hold up. Editing Leafy here. Turns out someone from my Discord server told me that 5.3 is gonna probably feature a new Liyue character. I don't look at leaks, so I don't know if that's true, but if it does end up being true, then goddamn, wow, it's gonna be 5.3, the latest Liyue character release, and Mondstadt will still be all the way back in 3.5. What the hell, man? Okay. Anyway, back into the video. This is getting more depressing. So for now, let's just move on to regional and map expansions. As everyone would know, the one and only regional expansion that we have gotten for Mondstadt is the Hellish Snow Purgatory, that is the Mountain of Dragonspine. And that thing was added all the way back in 1.2, which was on December 23rd, 2020. With the only thing that ever changed from it being the cryohypostasis being added in as a world boss for Eula materials in 1.5. Now, the only other Mondstadt regional expansion that has been teased to us forever now is Dornman Port, which they have been doing everything from referring to it many times in events, both Mondstadt ones and non-Mondstadt ones, mentioning that 2 playable characters even met there, and I'm not only talking about when Beidou and Eula met in that one alchemy event, I'm also referring to Yanfei and Eula supposedly having met there as well, which I don't even know if people still remember the fact that those 2 actually know each other. Yeah, they've been doing all that apart from actually releasing the goddamn port, or even coming close to making some sort of video teaser or teaser for it. And those of you with a rather recent memory of Genshin would probably only remember the port being teased since somewhere in the Sumeru patches. But this thing has actually been teased all the way back from the game's release, with this random academician guy who's sat by the god of time sundial. When we suggest that he should use a boat to get to the Nameless Island, he says that you could charter one from Port Dorman. This thing has been mentioned and teased since 1.0 and we have not even gotten any bit closer to it releasing. Mona's born there and it's also where she met her old hag master and we can't even get a storyline about that. And once again, it still doesn't help when you compare it in contrast to other regions' sub-areas. Liyue's Chenyu Vale got a little mention for the first time on the Ayata artifact in version 2.6, and it was already a released sub-area by 4.4. How much longer would it take for them to just stop making references to it and make it exist in the game instead? There's quite a bit more that we can talk about Mondstadt's geographical outdatedness. One of the more prominent ones that I've noticed recently is the fact that Mondstadt is still the only region to not have a single layered teleport waypoint. And what I mean by that is the fact that none of their teleport waypoints have that changing layer properties that we've seen in literally every other region in the game. Even Liyue already has some, courtesy of Fujin's domain and that one Guhua cult domain. And that's only if you don't count Chasm. Dragonspine should have probably had one considering you can go inside a literal mountain that has caverns within it and that giant big space of pure cold existence, but I don't know, guess they just didn't think people want to go back down there often and... yeah, you know what? They're right, I guess. Another map fun fact that you guys should have already noticed is that out of all the older regions, Mondstadt is still the only one that doesn't have an underground sub-area the way Liyue has the Chasm and Inazuma has Enkanomiya. And some of you might be asking about Sumeru, but literally that region has a whole ass sub-region as an underground sub-area courtesy of the land of Satex, the Pari section of the deserts, and considering the fact that it also houses the gate to freaking Khaenri'ah underground, I think we can give it a pass for not technically having its own separate underground sub-region when it already has that much underground exploration. And don't even get me started with the nameless islands off the coast of Stormbearer Point. You're gonna let the coolest mystery that came out of Genshin's release version just be a random island that does nothing other than to be a location for a short world quest thing where all you do is analyze some sundial puzzle, go through hell to get to the island itself, fight a ruin guard, and get a luxurious chest for your troubles? Not that it wasn't cool to do back then, but this place is just brimming with so much more potential of what it can be. And the dryness of actual intriguing Mondstadt content just makes the stagnant presence of this thing all the more tragic, honestly. That circle on the center of the island is just begging to be an entrance point to some underground Mondstadt section. And the fact that this wiki commenter all those years ago pointed out that the path that leads to the center of the island goes pretty far into the sea ahead of it, which it really does, by the way. Like, look at this. Look at how far that path actually stretches. And the fact that the structure itself seems to be quite decently sized in nature, as you can see through like this sort of underwater preview here, you would just have this thing be the perfect underground access point or a new sub-area if we could somehow drain the water around this shit. And I swear to God, if Dorman Port ends up being as insignificant and dull as Sumeru's Baida Harbor, then I shit you not, Hoyo better make the Nameless Islands be some gigantic underwater exploration stuff, or we can just straight up say that Mondstadt is dead in their eyes. Alright, enough about maps. Let's round this video off with some more story and character related forgotten trivia. First one is the story involvement of Mondstadt characters. The last time both any Mondstadt character and geographical location had anything to do with progressing Genshin's main story arc, meaning Interlude, Traveler, and some parts of the Archon quest, was all the way back in 1.4 with the We Will Be Reunited quest, where we fought abyssal forces that for some reason began attacking Andrias and some parts of Mondstadt. We were also introduced to the concept of the Defiled Statue, only for it to also be a concept that is entirely forgotten for the rest of Genshin's story. And the same thing almost happened to the fact that we as the Traveler could purify abyssal corruption from people and things because we didn't get a lick of that information resurfacing anywhere within the main story up until Natlan cropped up. So Hoyo really saved their skin from that one, but it was still a very close call. Now, some of you might want to say, oh, but Kaya was there for the start of Caribert and Mona showed up in one of the Fontaine Archon quests. Yeah, sure, okay. Mondstadt itself didn't have anything to do as to why it was important that Kaya was there. And for Mona, while I appreciate that she was there because I liked her as a character, but she kinda did diddly squat other than to sort of be a comfort presence for us for a bit and then help us find a way to have a short chat with one of the Hexen Circle mages who, come on, let's be honest here, wasn't all that helpful in the grand scheme of Fontaine things. Alright, we now move on to the last Mondstadt character trivia, which all centers around the character demos, particularly Diluc and Jeans, which for all of you OGs would know that those two characters don't have their own character demos. They have miscellanies but not demos, which is for me just such a hugely wasted content idea. You've got the Genshin Batman, the swollest existence that Mondstadt probably has, the man who survived going face to face against 3 Fatui Harbingers at once, and this guy doesn't have a character demo? And then you've got Jean, the current acting Grandmaster of the Knights of Favonius, the Dandelion Knight, now also serving as one of the Animo Archon's 4 Winds, pretty much the other half that makes the duo of Mondstadt's strongest protectors, and she also doesn't have a character demo? Honestly, if it were up to me, I'd have them redo all the original character demos just so that they actually have the same quality as the demos we have now, because demos have come an insanely long way since the birth of the 1.0 ones, and it would be a shame to not be able to see the OG characters get the same vein of treatment. At this point, I'm also just hoping that Varka's return from his grand expedition would be an opportunity for the devs to just dedicate the second halves of a couple of future patches to just shower us with Mondstadt characters. Of course, other than making the obvious choice, Varka become playable, they should also consider making a couple more figures be known to the players soon and have them be playable later on. Shit, make Jean and Barbara's parents be playable characters for all I care, cause one is the seneschal of the church while the other is a formidable warrior. Just do it, man. And of course, I almost forgot about Alice. If her whole ass daughter is considered to be such a destructive force, then I shit you not, we need Alice to be capable of literally nuking things in lore. And who the hell is the father? They both are just traveling somewhere far and dangerous, so I'd expect him to be someone who can be as equally destructive. Oh, and one last thing. Make Ludi Harpastum become an actual freaking event, please. Windbloom is cool and all, but one of the first things I heard about Mondstadt was Ludi Harpastum, and we all thought we were getting an event around that, but it ended up being a different event. Just scratch this itch as well, Hoyo. Please, just make it. Right, so have you refelt how forgotten Mondstadt is? Then my job here is done. Like the video if you did, and feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments down below. Until the next video, my name's Leafy, and I'll see you all next time. Sayonara.